So we're back then with another news update video for Marvel's Avengers. This is on the back of another AMA, which is Ask Me Anything, which was on Reddit earlier on today, and we got a ton of information from developers, lots of new interesting news, and it's really pretty awesome to see them still engaging with the community as much as they are. Hopefully that does continue. Now, I will put a link to the actual post there if you want to go check it out yourself, because what I'll be doing is just looking through the post and I'll be giving my own opinion on the questions and pointing out the ones that I feel they were really pretty interesting that were answered. But let's jump in and let's break all this down. There was a whole ton of questions asked here. Now, some of the questions, it's things we'd actually had answers for before, or to be honest, the question and answer weren't really that interesting. But what I've done is I've brought up all the questions on screen and I've highlighted the ones in red. They're the ones that I'll comment on, but if you want you can pause it to see the other ones as well. But this one here, pretty nice one. So it's saying, I know you probably can't comment on this, but is there a chance we could see Stormbreaker? So that was Thor's hammer in the first Infinity War movie. It's saying, will we see this in the game? And the answer is, you never know. I'm fairly certain in time we will see MCU costumes come to the game, because it would be a huge money spinner for them, and if you're going to have an MCU costume you need to have Infinity War 4 with the awesome Stormbreaker as well. The next question we got here was a pretty vague one, but it's an interesting answer we got and an encouraging answer. So they were asked just about anything they could really share they're working on at the moment, and they've said that the team is mostly working on optimizations in war zones, trying to get the best enemy FPS, enemy counts as we can. We know it's important. It is encouraging to hear that, because when I was playing on PS4, the biggest detractor for the game by far was the performance. It really pulls it back when you play it on a machine that can actually handle it, a high-end PC or PlayStation 5 and the next Xbox when they come out. It does feel like a new game. It just feels so much better. This next screen here has a whole host of interesting questions and answers. The first one is asking about, previously they mentioned there'll be 80 plus war zones in the game, but what does that include? So does it include drop zones, hives, faction missions and so on? Developer states yes, that covers everything at launch that takes place in war zones. So just for context, if you think back to the beta, I think we had the equivalent of around about 10 war zones in the game. So the full game will have 8 times as many war zones as were available in the beta, and that actually kept me pretty busy as it was. Next question here is, can you elaborate more on how multiplayer works right off the bat? Will we be able to play as all 6 characters at the start, or will we have to unlock them in the story? So it depends how you play. If you follow campaign, then yes, you have to unlock them, because they're missing at the beginning. You can go straight to the Avengers Initiative, which is the multiplayer mode, as long as you're okay with spoilers, and all heroes will be available, you know, provided they aren't dead or anything. So it's obviously talking about Captain America. We know he's going to be in the game, as much as it looks like he does get killed at the start with AD. Next question here is, does that mean player will be able to skip all the campaign in the state? I don't recommend it, but you can if you choose. You can always go back though, so that's really interesting. Not sure what I'm going to do, if I'm going to do the campaign or I want to just jump in and see all the heroes straight away. It's going to be a difficult choice to make there. Final question on this page is, could we see Wolverine in the game? I covered this in a previous video. So they say, we've got 1 million requests for the X-Men, you will have to wait and hear what we come up with. But in a previous interview they stated the fact that nothing really is off the table. In years gone you had the likes of X-Men and Fantastic Four that were most definitely off the table, but that is not the case anymore, so that's pretty awesome as well. The next question we have highlighted here ties in with the question about the multiplayer mode a moment ago. So can we beat the game without taking part in Avengers Initiative, which once again is the multiplayer mode? So you can, but the story opens up after the campaign. You still get a meaningful conclusion, and this is emphasised here, you can play all war zones by yourself as you want. The only mode you can't play by yourself will be raids. So if you're somebody that's a single player gamer, you will be able to experience the vast majority of the actual game, so that is good. Next question here is, what is your favourite skill from the skill tree for Iron Man? And this says from the first skill tree in the beta. He actually states that one you haven't seen yet, but I promise it's cool when it's Hulkbuster related. In one of the war tables we actually seen you could customise the Hulkbuster ultimate as well, so you can add missiles or extra lasers to it. So I'm really interested to see what that will be. These next 2 questions here are actually tied together, and I'm fairly certain we've had a reveal of this in a way through one of the war tables, but it's saying, is there any chance we could get a way to set which takedown our heroes do? I've seen that there are more than 2, yet it seems to I only get 2 of them, like 99% of the time. They're saying that's something we talk about. The next question, I would love a way to acquire new takedowns for heroes, even if I have to buy them. That's something I agree with. I wouldn't mind paying for that because it's only cosmetic. And is that something that could potentially come down the line? And there's a big maybe there. Now, one of the previous war tables we had under the cosmetic tab, one of the options next to emotes and outfits was actually takedowns. So I think this has already been confirmed, that maybe they don't realise that it is out in the open, because I'm 99% certain from this answer and from what we've seen in that Warzone you will be able to get customisable takedowns. This question for me here is a really interesting one, and one I've actually been thinking about myself the last few days. So it says, are there any plans for some type of endgame progression system a la Diablo's Paragon system, or even Marvel Heroes Omega's Prestige system? So it's saying I can't talk about any of that stuff, but I'll tell you that there's a very active conversation about it internally now. It sounds like they're going to be releasing heroes pretty thick and fast, so I feel there needs to be some way, some kind of group buff. I know we have the comics that will buff your characters, but I would like to see something else that maybe encourages you. The more heroes you unlock and level up, the better your buffs get. And even something like Marvel Heroes used to do, where you got a small XP buff for every hero you maxed out, which means when the next hero come out, you could rank them up a little bit quicker. That's something I would really love to see. Got 3 questions and answers on this page. The first one, when the roster eventually goes up, will you put any team synergies of chosen heroes like in the Marvel Ultimate Alliance games? The state could be some story links between heroes, you'll have to see. Something I'm not actually keen on. I know from a flavour perspective it is nice, but I want to be able to run whatever team I want. I don't want to feel that I'm going to be losing out in certain buffs if I don't run particular teams. But let me know what you think of this in the comments below. I think my opinion on this might be an unpopular one. The next question we have is, early in the beta, Jarvis introduces you to missions with modifiers, enemies with specific negative status applications like cryo, and the later missions are endgame suite of activities currently being made with that kind of itemisation being very important. Yes is a short answer for this one. Not a massive fan of this, the reason being that there's so many different variables on gear. You've got your perks, you've got your actual stats as well. Now if you throw in the fact that you have to potentially look for resistance to a certain damage type and you need to get that on a good gear piece, does it mean we're going to have 10 pieces of gear for each character that are all really good for later content? Really not a fan of this at all. Again, let me know what you do think about this. Final question we have here is, any chance for MCU costumes? And they say you never know, and I think they would be really silly if they have the opportunity to do it, they don't actually bring them in. So it will all just be a marketing and a legal type of thing. If they can get them, then I think it really will help out the game a lot. So a lot of the answers in the beta were little smiley faces or winks or coming soon or so on, but this one was a definitive answer. So this one here is, will there be a helmet toggle for costumes? Would love to play some Cap without the helmet, and just a point blank no sorry there. Now I know from personal experience Marvel is exceptionally strict about how their characters actually look, and there's so much certification that characters need to go through before they can come out, so I'm not surprised that they're not allowing that level of customization there. We have 2 questions here, both relating to gear. The first one, will there be gear sets? And it states yes, but maybe not in the way you are used to, so pretty cryptic there. I'm not sure really what they're going to do with that, but interesting to see. We will be getting gear sets. I want a sniper Black Widow, I really do. That would be a lot of fun. But next question is, calling back to the status gear for endgame activities, are there any plans for a loadout system to make our lives a little easier? And that does make sense. A moment ago we were talking about how you have different levels that may have certain status effects, so it would be good to quickly switch to gear that would help you in that level. It says it's not there at launch, but it is a good suggestion. So this question here was something that did puzzle me. The question was asking about Howling Commandos, and the response actually said you saw something about that in the beta. I'm not sure if they're referring back to one of the war table videos where we actually did see the Howling Commandos, but I can't remember anything specifically about them in the beta. If I did miss that and there was an Easter egg there, then do let me know in the comments below. The next question we have here is all about raids and the gear system for it. So the question is, I like content that's challenging and rewarding. Will there be gear crafting that can only be obtained in the hives stroke raids, and will difficulty influence the drop rate and rarity? The answer is raids will have unique loot. This is something I actually really like. I know everyone's not a fan of this. You get some people that will maybe play the game solo on the easiest difficulty and they want to get the same gear that other people get, but I think you should be rewarded for the amount of effort you actually actually put in. So if you're playing harder content, which means you've had to grind longer to get into the content, if you're playing it with a group of people, which makes it even harder again, then I feel that you should be rewarded for that. Not always a popular opinion. Again, let me know what you think about that in the comments. The next question we have on this page is, as we've seen that there is a space mission, so that's when we've seen Iron Man and the White Guardians of the Galaxy still suit in space, will we spend a long time in space or not? And it states a little time, probably more often and later on, and I kind of imagine that's the way the campaign will go. It will ramp up, and then when we get to space, that's when things are really going to kick off. Next question here is in regards to levelling. So it states that, will levelling continue as the game receives updates? And the answer is simply yes here. Will be interesting once again for a growing roster. If new characters are coming out all the time, then it means if they increase the level cap, you then need to go in and potentially upgrade all those particular characters, and what will you get for your upgrades as well, because as far as I'm aware, when you max out a character in the core game, you will get access to all the available abilities on the primary skill tree. It was capped in the beta due to level cap, but you'll get all of them unlocked, and then when it comes to your modifiers, you'll get all of them unlocked, but you have to choose certain ones as well. So it'll be interesting to see, will it just be perhaps a stat buff, or will there be certain gear that you can maybe only equip at certain levels? Next question we have here is going to be a bit of a spoiler in my answer, so I'll put a timestamp up here if you want to jump forward a little bit. But the question is, any plans for the cosmic side of Marvel, like Silver Surfer, the Skrulls, Adam Warlock, Thanos? And they just state, maybe. I love that stuff. Now, in one of the achievements that was leaked, it was probably about half a year ago or so, the achievements for the game were actually leaked. One of the final ones, I believe, actually mentions the Skrulls in it, so there you go, there is the cosmic side of that. The next question we have here is, will we be able to obtain all of the primary skill trees in that tree? I've already touched on that a second ago. I'm aware that other trees have choices, but there'll be limited skill points for the primary, and yes, you can. Yeah, so you'll be able to max out the primary skill tree, which is pretty nice. The next question here is one that I'm glad to see, because in the beta on odd occasion I was getting level 45 legendary gear which I couldn't actually upgrade in characters because that was a level cap for gear, so that was really annoying. But if you look at the question, in the beta once gear was level 45 it couldn't get perks. Does the full game provide a way to still get perks once you reach max gear level? And it simply states yes, it does. Imagine the way to do that. The gear level max at the moment is 300 I believe, so they could just make it, if you get a piece of level 300 gear, it has all the perks unlocked on it. That would make sense. The next question is, will max character level allow you to unlock all of the skills for that character, or will it be like the beta where a handful of skills will always be locked? So again, all your primary skills will be unlocked, but the answer here states you can unlock everything, but not everything can be active at once. You make some choices. I've highlighted this again just to actually quickly talk about the fact that you'll be maxing out your primary skill trees. Then from what we've seen, you've got a passive tree, and then you've got a tree that affects your heroics. So let's say you've got one particular heroic, your ultimate heroic for example. Now that will have two trees with 3 options on each side, so you can choose one option from the left side and one option from the right side as well. It's quite hard to explain, but hopefully I've done a decent job with that. But it means that each ability or passive or so on will have 2 different modifiers out of potential 6 that you can choose. Next question here is all about crafting, something which I don't think we really get in the game. So the question is, any plans to add a way to reroll perks, maybe for a large resource cost? And the answer is not at the moment. No, hopefully they'll bring it in at time, because finding that perfect piece of gear with, at the moment in the beta with low level gear, you are looking at 3 perks rolling from a pretty high pool, and those perks also had different percentages to actually activate, and then you had your actual stat buffs as well. And when you were unlocking later gear, they had as many as 2 different stats on them, so there's a lot of variables there, and it would be nice to have some way to actually control them to an extent. Next question is, please say they are considering a mini-map, something we definitely need, because having to activate the tactical awareness all the time is just such a pain in the beta. But it says, we heard that feedback a lot, not at launch, but we'll see what happens and what's possible for the multiplayer visibility post-launch, so good to hear that. We've got a few interesting questions and answers here, they're all nice and short thankfully. So this one is, any chance for cross progression or even cross play after launch? Something I would love to see, because I've got the PlayStation, I've actually got the Xbox, the Switch and the PC as well, so I'd like to jump between the PlayStation and the PC if I could, but they state not at this time, but I will not say never. So it's encouraging to see they've not outright ruled it out. The next one is, will there be mission ending timer so we can collect loot that fell before departing to the Quinjet? And I had no idea the game worked this way, but the answer was you won't lose anything. Leftover loot gets sent to your bag post mission if you missed it, so that's useful there. The next one we have is, does that include if my friends open a chest but I don't go near it and click it? So the answer is no with a big exclamation mark. Chests have individual roles, so you have to personally loot them. Now that does make sense, because what will happen otherwise, if you go into a multiplayer match, if the other people playing don't have to actually open chests to get the loot from them, you're going to have a lot of people going AFK and just sitting at the start of a level and just allowing everyone else to go through the levels and get the loot for them. So that's the reason that's going to operate that way. We then have something that I covered the other day, and this is about a ping system to find these chests, and they say they're looking into that for post-launch. The final question we have here is one I'm glad was asked. So, will it be possible to mute Jarvis while playing Warzones? He was annoying in the beta while exploring, and that was so true. Every time you come up against a group of enemies, or you had a chest within view or a shield bunker, he was announcing it, and it got old really quick. The answer was Tony's been trying to figure it out. I presume he's meaning Tony Stark. There's a bit of a joke, and it won't be there at launch, but it is good they actually are looking into that. Now, that's all the really interesting questions we got on the AMA on Reddit. These were all collated by a Reddit user called KizXH. Now, I'll actually put a link to the original post where they did collate them all, so if you enjoyed this video and you like the breakdown, make sure to drop by that post and leave some nice comments for them as well and upvote their post there, because it must have took a whole lot of work to actually do that. But let me know what you think of everything in the comments below. We're getting closer and closer to launch day, so I'm getting more excited. But yeah, thanks for tuning in for this. Stay safe. I'll see you all again soon.